Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Teachers That Sparkle. It's time. It's winding down summer. I don't know if still feels, I'm in Houston, Texas, so of course it's hot and it still feels like summer. And we all know as teachers that that's typically normal, right? We start to get into the month of July, and although the weather is still very warm and we still want to do all of the fun things, we're starting to need to think about getting back and getting everything ready to go. So the last couple episodes, we've been talking about a couple of things that I always found very important. I was a mom when I started teaching, and so if I didn't have my home organized and then my plans for how I was going to move forward once school got back into the schedule, then I felt like I was just scrambling all the time. And I'm definitely a planner, so I like to have things nice and neat and organized. Today, I wanted to talk with you just for a few minutes about room setup, because that's going to be the next thing that's going to come up. Now, if your principal is anything like I was, you probably have or will be receiving soon information about when you can start going to your classroom. I know my daughter's boyfriend received his recently, and he's going to be getting ready to start in, I think, this week, actually. My daughter has started to receive her information. Again, we're in Texas, so school starts a little bit earlier here than some of the other states, but it's about that time. So having said that, let's talk about the room for just a few minutes today. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I do want to let you know that if you are seeing this and you are somebody that wants to connect and have some support with setting up your classroom, I will be happy to help. I charge a very low fee to be able to do so. I even, if you're local, have the opportunity to come and help you actually set up a room, as long as you understand there will be a fee and that you will be needing to provide all of your materials. And that's my best way that I can keep my costs super low. If you're not local, though, we can always do work over FaceTime or through Zoom or one of these great technology pieces, right? All right, so let's get started. So I was always the girl who needed to have the cutest room in the building, have the themes going on. Not my first year. My first year, my room was awful. I'm going to promise that. It was awful for a number of different reasons. I got to Houston the last weekend of July and the next Monday. So I got on here on Friday, and the following Monday, I had to report to work. And 1 week later, school started. Now, here's the weird thing about that. I had to move in, and I was a mom. I had to get my daughter settled. She was starting kindergarten in 1 week, and get my classroom set up. I didn't know what I was doing. And again, these might sound like excuses, but it was my reality at that time in my life. And so I did the bare minimum. I had the desk set up, I had the room set up, and I put a couple of posters on the wall. I was in a portable, and my space was very, very limited. And I really, truly did not know what I was really setting up for. I had been hired to be a 5th grade reading teacher. And at the last minute, I had been transitioned to a 4th grade math and science position. And so again, I didn't have the materials. I didn't have the money. That was just a tough beginning of the year. However, going forward, I realized that I needed my classroom to be inviting. I wanted to be the cutest in the hall, and typically I was. I wanted a theme, and I always did. However, the most important thing was that the room was inviting to children. So after my first year, I transitioned to 3rd grade, and I was back in the building. My classroom was amazing. We had amazing classrooms at that school if you were inside the building. And I was able to do all of the things. I was able to have the reading area, the small group area, the whole group teaching area, spaces where my students could work in partners when they were in centers, and those types of things. But I had to purposefully plan for all of those things. Now, what I found the most important piece of all of that is no matter how you set up your room, no matter how big or small your space is, I needed to know that from where any spot in the room that I was standing, I could see what my children were doing. Because I'm going to promise you, if you have a situation where you cannot see them, they are going to get into trouble. Not because they're bad children, but because they're children. And that's just what they do. And so I would stand at the door and look around and make sure I could see. I would stand at my desk and look around and make sure that I could see. I would stand at the front of the room, the back of the room, the side of the room, anywhere that I might be in my classroom. I needed to make sure that I could see the students. And that meant I might have had a plan and then I had to adjust the plan. So that's thing number one, I think is super important when you're setting up your room, is making sure that you are able to see everything that's going on in the classroom. You don't want to leave anything to chance. The second thing that I think is most important is that you have the room organized. The first impression is going to be super important. If you are a district, like every one of the districts that I've worked in, you're going to have a meet and greet. And that meet and greet is going to be an opportunity, even at secondary, for families to come and see you and your classroom. You will leave an impression. And because some parents only see you that one time, that impression is going to last. You want to be neat. You want to be clean. You want to be organized. And doing all of this in the front end is also going to help you later on, because once you have an organization system and places for everything, and you start to implement that on the first day of school, then it's just going to become the normal. And you want as many things in that classroom to be as normal as can be. So you are going to want to set your room up to meet that first impression and for functionality. Make sure it's organized, it's put together. You have places for kids to put their things. They can know where they turn in work, that they know where their supplies should be when you don't want them playing around with them. I've made those mistakes. That's how I know. And then I think the third thing that we all have to remember about our classroom is, and I made this mistake, I just told you a few minutes ago, I needed to be the cutest in the hallway, right? You don't have to be the cutest in the hallway. You need it to be inviting, but you do not have, it's not a competition. You do not have to compare yourself. There were years financially, I was in a place where I could not go buy a bunch of materials. And there were years financially, I was in a place that I could go buy a bunch of materials and make everything cute. It's not about that. It's about the purpose of the classroom. And what your purpose is to make sure that your students feel comfortable there, that it is organized and clean, and that it does provide a space where you can monitor everything that's going on in your classroom. So those are my tips for you this week on setting up your classroom. Good luck with getting all of that going, because I know that that's coming soon, as I mentioned. And again, if you feel the need that you want to reach out, bounce some ideas off, or just need some additional support, let's get on a little quick call for free and let's talk about how that might happen. All right, I will talk with you next week. Have a great week, y'all.